One of the most underrated consoles of all time is the Wii U, which is actually my favorite console ever made. There are a handful of reasons why the Wii U hugely undersold, such as poor marketing and people not understanding the difference between it and the Wii. If you love the Wii, then there is no reason not to love the Wii U because it has all the Wii software and user interface built into it. So you get everything you had on the Wii, plus the new features and games that come with the Wii U. One of those new features was the Wii U Gamepad. This thing walked so the Nintendo Switch could run. Well, with how bad the Wii U sold, I'd say it barely crawled. The Gamepad was a big wide controller with a screen in the middle. You could use it as a regular controller, use it as a controller and a TV screen if you wanted to use the actual TV screen for something else while still playing games, or you could use it as some strange and creative gimmick Nintendo created for it. As far as looks and feels, I would go as far as saying the Wii U Gamepad is better than the Switch in handheld mode. The grips on the back make it super comfortable to hold for long periods of time. It has a traditional D-pad instead of the Switch's 4 buttons and a volume slider that I personally prefer over the Switch's volume up and down buttons. It also has a place for the stylus that makes it more convenient to use the touchscreen, which I never really understood why the Switch didn't include. Like, yeah, you could easily use your fingers, but why not give us the option to use a stylus, especially in games like Super Mario Maker 2? Obviously, if you want to take your Switch and play it anywhere besides one room, you can because you have the entire console in your hands. With the Gamepad, however, for it to work, it needs to be in range of the Wii U console, so that means being 2 or more rooms will likely make it start to disconnect. With such an innovative and risky piece of technology, Nintendo is bound to make some games that take advantage of the features. And that is exactly what they did. Though some of the games that use the Gamepad don't work exactly how Nintendo wanted them to, many games use the Gamepad perfectly to add a fun twist. Today, we're going to be going through some of those games. A lot of the games I talk about are solely Nintendo games because games from other consoles that were ported to the Wii U control pretty much the same and don't use any special features on the Gamepad. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Before we talk about any game, let's quickly talk about some of the features of the Wii U Gamepad so we know what we're looking for. Firstly is the big screen in the middle. It can display anything at once like video games, movies, an internet browser, or can be used as a map for your open world games. It is also a very responsive touchscreen that comes with a stylus packed in on top. Like the 3DS, it also has gyro controls. Many Wii U games use this in their games to look around, aim, or for some other creative use. This little thing at the top is a camera. There aren't many games that I've seen use this feature, but the games that do use it make for some hilarious moments. You can also use it to take a picture of yourself, and the console will try to make a me from that picture. It's never close, but it's so funny to see. Up there near the camera is also a small Wii sensor bar. Because the Wii is packed into the Wii U, and most Nintendo Wii U games still use the Wii Remote, you can use this sensor to play Wii and Wii U games that require a cursor. I'm sorry, that's a lot of Wii's in one sentence. I never really use this feature that much, but it's really useful if one of your siblings wants to play a Wii game but you don't want to give them the TV. Like the DS, there is a mic at the bottom of the Gamepad. Some games use this feature to propel things in different directions. I could see why some people would find this ridiculous, but I honestly thought it was charming. The last feature is probably the most useful one, and you don't even use it for games. That is the built-in infrared sensor TV remote. I don't know about you, but in my big family, we always lost the remote or we bought old used TVs that didn't even come with one. It was so nice having something that was able to control the TV, and that was most likely already in my hands because I would use the Gamepad to play games and the TV to watch movies. And it was a lot harder to lose because of how big it was. Oh, and you never had to worry about your siblings stealing your batteries because there was none. First game we'll talk about is NintendoLand. This was Nintendo's launch title for the Wii U. Every Nintendo launch title is designed to show off that console's capabilities and new features. Wii Sports for the Wii, 1-2 Switch for the Switch, and NintendoLand for the Wii U. And let me tell you, this game does everything to show off the Wii U's HD graphics and gamepad features. I mean, I could make an entire video off just this game alone. Each minigame has some cool gimmick designed to show you exactly what this console is capable of, and I might be a little biased, but most of these minigames are awesome. The first 3 games are team attractions where one player plays on the gamepad and the others use Wii remotes. You can play these by yourself, it's just a lot more chaotic and fun with other people. I won't be explaining each game in great detail because that would be one long video. I want to just stick to showing you how the gamepad is used. The Legend of Zelda Battle Quest is super fun, maybe even the most fun. Dressed as Link with a bow in hand, you use the gyro controls to look around and shoot enemies. If you want to reload your arrows, you just tilt the gamepad downwards. These enemies are all over the place, high, low, behind, everywhere, so you really have to work hard to get them all, which can make it really challenging but fun. The next game is Pikmin Adventures. This game displays the gamepad touchscreen. You run around with your Pikmin using your stylus to tap on enemies. Your Pikmin then ferociously attack those enemies to destroy them. It sounds simple but can actually get kinda challenging in the later levels when you really have to focus on getting nectar and leveling up your Pikmin so they can do more damage. The next team attraction is Metroid Blast. It's kinda like the Zelda one where you have to use the gamepad's gyro controls to look around and shoot, except you're in Samus's ship flying above, destroying all different types of enemies. Getting the gamepad controls down can be a little tough, especially now because your character doesn't auto move like in the Zelda game, but once you do get it down, this game is such a blast. The next games are competitive attraction where one person is on the gamepad versus other players on Wii remotes. The player using the gamepad has the advantage of seeing something different on their screen, while others can only look at the TV screen, taking advantage of the two different screens on the same console. These games also use the gamepad camera to record the player's face that is displayed on the TV, which makes for some hilarious reactions. You'll have to excuse the awkwardness because I didn't have anyone to play with, so I had to control the Wii remote and the gamepad at the same time. The first game is Mario Chase. The player with the gamepad is Mario, while the others are Toads hunting Mario. Basically, it's a big game of hide and seek and tag. The player on the gamepad has a map with everyone's location on it, while the other players have to rely on each other to corner Mario. The next is Luigi's Ghost Mansion, which is pretty much the same setup. The player on the gamepad is a ghost who can see everyone else, while the others are ghost hunters who can't see the ghost. Sweet Day is the same thing where the gamepad player has to control the two guards and hunt the other players who are stealing candy. This one is creative, I just haven't played it that much. Next are the solo attractions. This is where the gamepad really shines. Yoshi's Fruit Cart is actually a super creative and fun one. You have to use the gamepad's touchscreen to draw a path that will collect all the fruit and lead to the door. Here's the twist. The TV screen only shows the fruit but doesn't show the line you're drawing, and the gamepad only shows the line you're drawing but not the fruit. So you have to use both screens to estimate where the fruit is on the gamepad and draw the line that would collect all the fruits. It's super fun and gets pretty challenging in the later stages. Donkey Kong Crash Course is super fun but can be pretty hard. You're some weird spring vehicle and you have to use the gamepad's gyro controls, joysticks, bumpers, and blowing into the mic to traverse this giant obstacle course. You have 3 lives and it gets really tough towards the end, but it's just so addicting. Ninja Castle is another really creative one. You have to turn the gamepad sideways and point it at your screen. You then use the gamepad to aim the cursor on the TV and the touchscreen to throw ninja stars at paper ninjas. You can also do different patterns on the touchscreen to do special moves. In Captain Falcon's Twister Race, you again turn the gamepad sideways and use the gyro controls to navigate your vehicle through the track. I was honestly surprised when I was playing this how much I could turn the gamepad and it still be 100% accurate. You know when you rotate the Wii remote too far and it starts to not understand where it's at? I had no issues like that on the gamepad. I also didn't realize till I looked at the footage that the TV was capturing my face the whole time and I was actually jump scared by that angle. The next game that uses the gamepad perfectly is a short but sweet one, Mario Party 10. Like every other Mario Party, there is the classic game mode where 4 players battle it out in minigames and try to get the stars on the board. However, there is another game mode called Bowser Party where 4 players can work together to survive and escape the player on the gamepad who plays as Bowser. Each player rolls their dice to move the vehicle. Then when it's Bowser's turn, he rolls 4 dice to try to catch up to them. If he does catch up to them, a minigame starts where the player controlling Bowser uses the gamepad to try to take away lives from other players. If each player reaches 0 lives, Bowser wins. There's only 10 minigames that use the gamepad, which is kinda low, but the ones they do have are really fun and creative. Bowser's Bad Breath minigame is one of the rare games that take advantage of the mic. You blow into the mic to spit fireballs and try to hit the other players. It's pretty fun and you'd be surprised of how accurate it is. Bowser's Hammer Slammer uses the gamepad's gyro controls and different screen to rotate and hit other players with a big hammer. This game could be a lot more balanced if the person on the gamepad can only look at their perspective. Instead, it's a lot easier for them because they could just look at the TV screen. Bowser's Fireball Fury is another fun one that uses the gamepad's gyro controls. Again, this one seems a little more in Bowser's favor. Bowser's Wicked Wheel uses the gamepad's touchscreen to spin the wheel and try to get the players to hit the electricity. This one is definitely one of my favorites. And that's pretty much all Mario Party 10 has to offer in terms of the gamepad, so let's move on to the next. The next game is Super Mario Maker. I know there was a Super Mario Maker 2 on the Switch with more features and better graphics, but this game just makes more sense on the Wii U and was a little more practical. If you want to make a level in Super Mario Maker 2, you'd either have to put the Switch in handheld mode where you can use the touchscreen but can no longer see the game on the TV, or you can put the Switch in TV mode but you have to use a controller to build a level, which is not nearly as good. On the Wii U, however, because the gamepad and console are 2 separate systems, you could build a level using the gamepad and then play the level watching the TV. You didn't have to move the gamepad back and forth on a dock every time you wanted to design a level, then play the game. Of course you can just stick to playing Mario Maker 2 in handheld mode, but sometimes I just want to play my games on a TV. Oh, and the Wii U includes a stylus, which is a plus. The next game isn't a Nintendo game, but the Gamepad's usefulness on this version of the game compared to other consoles is insane. Scribblenauts Unlimited is a game where you have to go around the world using your journal to create any item imaginable in order to help people. This is an amazing game that I honestly think was ahead of its time. The problem was, on other consoles like the Xbox, to type out the item you wanted, you had to use this letter wheel. It was definitely better than just typing it out normally, especially because the game would give you suggestions, but it wasn't the most ideal. However, on the Wii U, you could just use the Gamepad touchscreen with the stylus to quickly type out the item you want, which was super nice. Also, this game in general just felt a lot better on the Wii U. You could use the touchscreen to tap on people and get an objective rather than having to go right up to the person and pressing a button. You could also use the touchscreen to direct Maxwell in any direction you wanted. These touchscreen features made the game feel much smoother. With so many different buttons to press on other consoles, it's easy to confuse yourself, or sometimes the controls just refuse to work. Definitely a Gamepad dub. Now the next game is a timeless classic. Well, the original was. Wii Sports Club. Now I'm not here to debate which game is better, Wii Sports. I'm just here to show you how this game uses the gamepad. Out of the 5 sports, only 2 of the sports use the gamepad. I guess Nintendo wanted to sort of keep that original vibe, or they couldn't think of a way to incorporate it in any other sport. The first sport is golf, and I honestly think the gamepad makes it better. You place the gamepad on the ground and use it as the golf ball. Swinging the Wii remote across the gamepad will then hit the ball. I don't know if this makes your swing more accurate, but it definitely feels cooler. Next is a controversial one, which is baseball. Batting is the same, but pitching is much different. Instead of holding a button down and swinging the Wii remote, you use the gamepad and its gyro controls to pitch. Holding one of the 4 buttons will curve the ball in that direction, and holding no button will do a fastball. If you can hit the sweet spot, then the pitch will go max speed. I honestly don't know which method of pitching I prefer, but pitching on the gamepad definitely makes it easier because you can aim right for the edge of the box. Next is Super Mario Bros. U. There's not much special the gamepad can do, but the one thing it can do is really neat. If you're playing with more than one player, someone can take control of the gamepad and use Boost Mode. Boost Mode uses the stylus to tap on the screen to add blocks for the other players to use in-game. This means if there is a hard-to-reach area or a too difficult part, the player using the gamepad can help you out. There's kind of a cooldown on how many blocks you can place, but if a player quickly steps on a bunch of blocks in a row, then the gamepad player can unlock a power where they can temporarily place as many blocks down as they'd like. This feature is really cool if you have younger siblings or other family members that aren't very good and die a lot but still want to contribute somehow. Just be careful because sometimes their blocks can get you killed. Mario vs. Donkey Kong Tipping Stars is a Mario puzzle game on the Wii U. If you ever played Mario vs. Donkey Kong Miniland Mayhem on the DS, then you'll know that this is very similar to that. Like the game on the DS, you use the gamepad's touchscreen to interact with things in the level in order to get the Mario toys to the door. This game is extremely similar to the DS version, so there's not much special that the gamepad can do. The one advantage the gamepad does have is that on the gamepad the level is zoomed in, and on the TV the level is zoomed out. So on the bigger, more complex levels, if you need to look at the TV to plan out your strategy, you can. Alright, now there's Wii Party U. I only played this once before I recorded with some family, and holy smokes Batman, this game uses the gamepad a lot. This is definitely another game that could have its own video, so I'll try to keep it short and cover only the gamepad stuff. And let me just tell you right now, it's awesome. So this game is pretty much Mario Party with Mii's, but with a surprising amount of extra content and modes packed into it. TV Party is the board game and minigame section with various modes. Most of the game modes just use the Wii modes as well as the minigames in those modes, except the 3v1 minigames where the 1 is on the gamepad. Gamepad Island, though, implied in the name, is all about the Wii U Gamepad. In this 2 to 4 player mode, players move across the board taking turns playing minigames on the gamepad. These minigames will add a bigger roll to your dice block. Obviously, the player that reaches the end first wins. This game mode was actually really fun, although I was just playing against myself on a different controller. If you didn't want to play any board games under the TV Party section, then you can just choose to play the minigames. A lot of these 1v3 minigames that use the gamepad are really cool and take advantage of pretty much all the gamepad features. Tube Tosser uses the stylus to throw inflatable tubes at the other 3 players. Quick side note, tell me this doesn't look like Jeffrey Epstein in Mii form. Spiked Ball Brawl uses the gamepad's gyro controls to roll a spiked ball around to hit the other players. Penalty Kick Challenge has you use the gamepad's motion controls to dive in a certain direction to save the ball from entering the net. I don't think I was using enough range of motion because I wanted to keep the gamepad in the camera, but sometimes it refused to go where I wanted it to. I was really excited to see the Catch a Wave minigame because it used the mic, but it didn't beat the allegations. You're supposed to use different tones to make the bridge raise in different parts to send the Mii's towards the ceiling, but it only picked up one tone and raised the bridge at one part, no matter how high or low my voice went. I can't lie, I was a little disappointed. Those were just a few of the mini-games. The next section is Gamepad Party, which is entirely devoted to using the gamepad. These mini-games have 1 or 2 players using the same gamepad at the same time to play mini-games. Most of them are against each other, but there are a couple that make you work together. Each player is on the opposite ends of the gamepad. The 2 sports games, tabletop foosball and baseball, are super entertaining. Each player must score the most points to win. I was a god at baseball, but neither me or my opponent could score any points on foosball. Tabletop Gauntlet is a really fun marble obstacle course that players must compete against in order to get their balls to the finish line first. Tabletop Minigames is a subsection of the Gamepad Party section. These are very quick-paced minigames that I really love. These honestly might be my favorite out of all of them. They're like little childhood board games that are just a blast to play. Some of them are a bit strange, but overall very good. There are also these same style of minigames, but co-op. These are really fun too, but I don't recommend playing with yourself because it's way more difficult. But I highly recommend it if you want to start a huge fight with your significant other. Before we move on to the next section, Nintendo, what am I watching? The final section that uses the gamepad is House Party. These are basically party games you might usually see as standalone games. I didn't get to play too much of these games because it's really hard to play by yourself, especially when there are no games you can play with one player, but here are the games I did play. Water Runners is like the first ever game I found that uses the gamepad sensor bar. You set the gamepad on the ground far away from the TV. You use the Wii remote and the gamepad sensor bar to fill your ladle up with water, then you must walk back towards the TV using the Wii remote to balance the water, then empty it into the jar. This is very creative and would make for a killer party game. Dance Me is a weird one. The gamepad is again on the floor and each player must get in a circle around it holding the Wii remotes and following the movement shown. I do remember playing this one with my family out of a joke and yeah, it was really goofy. So yeah, this was only a fraction of what's included in this game, which is absolutely bonkers. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse is a strange one. It's your classic 2D Kirby platformer with a really sick art style, but you use the stylus to control Kirby. You draw these rainbow lines that Kirby will follow no matter what, and tapping Kirby will make him attack. It definitely takes some practice and time to get used to, but once you can do it, it's quite entertaining. Like Nathaniel Bandy mentioned in his video when he played all the Kirby games, it is a bit disappointing because the way the game controls, you don't get to really look at the TV screen much and admire the HD graphics. Next is a short list, but the one feature it has is awesome. In Zelda Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker, you can see the map full screen on the gamepad as well as all your items. You can also swap your items here as well. Usually you'd have to press pause to do this, which isn't really that bad, but it's just more convenient being on the gamepad. Our next game is Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker. Besides just being able to use the gamepad to play this game separately from the Wii U, there's a couple features this game takes advantage of. Firstly, if you'd like, you can use the gyro controls to change angles and look around. However, it's a lot easier to use the right stick to do this instead. Next, you can use the gamepad's touchscreen to move these platforms around, which make for some pretty fun puzzles. Also with the touchscreen, there's these little fun wheels you can spin around that rotate a bunch of different terrain. Probably my favorite gamepad feature in this game is when Toad is on a moving platform and you have to use the gamepad to look around and hit items and enemies with turnips? Is that what these are? I don't know. You can use the stick to look around, it's just a lot slower, so I prefer to use the gyro controls. Another thing this game has are platforms you can move by blowing into the mic. I swear there was a way to avoid using the mic, but I might be wrong. Next is a game you're guaranteed to run out of breath saying. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games Sochi 2014. This game is kind of a weird one when it comes to the gamepad. Some of these games use the gamepad, but not in any special way. The first player uses the gamepad and then the other players just use Wii remotes that control the exact same way. But there are a few games that use the gamepad for its special features. The first game is a biathlon and they use it in a pretty cool way. Every player, including first, starts off on the Wii remote to ski. Whoever comes first in that skiing section gets the advantage of using the gamepad during the shooting sections while the others are stuck using their Wii remotes. Because you use the gyro controls to aim and the scope is much more zoomed in, the player using the gamepad has a much easier time hitting accurate shots. Snowboarding does use the gamepad's touchscreen to slide your fingers in different directions to do tricks, but it's not as special because you can do this on the Wii remote using a different input. But I guess it's still easier though. In curling, you can turn the gamepad sideways and draw a strategy that your team is aiming to achieve. This is kinda cool I guess, but it's a bit extra. Like if I'm playing against a team and they huddle around the gamepad to draw a strategy, I'm unplugging the Wii U and telling them to go outside. Within this game there are dream events that are less realistic than other games and are a lot more Nintendo style. The only one that really uses the gamepad in a way that the Wii remote can't is hole-in-one curling, and it's not even anything big. Basically the player on the gamepad pushes the giant hack, yes that's what it's called, and the player on the Wii remote does everything else. You just swipe your finger in the direction you want the hack to go and that's it. The Wii Remote role is honestly a lot cooler. Last but certainly not least is Game & Wario. The WarioWare games have always used that console's weird quirk or gimmick in their games, and they do it so fantastically. There's a lot to unpack in this game that I won't go too much into detail about, but let's talk about some of it. In the main game, there are different modes with different levels of stages that require you to use the gamepad in a certain way. One of them is the arrow technique, which is a lot like the ninja minigame we saw in NintendoLand. You hold the gamepad sideways and use the touchscreen to aim and shoot arrows at enemies. There's nothing we haven't seen in the other games we talked about, but the way Game & Wario does it is so fun and addicting. It is actually pretty challenging too, because I failed the boss the first time and had to start all over again. Shutter was a super fun one that I just wanted to play more of. You use the gamepad to zoom in on your targets and take pictures of them. The way this game controlled, it really felt like my gamepad was a big camera that can zoom in on anything miles away. If you need to take a farther look at everything, you can always look at the TV. Ski is pretty much exactly like the Captain Falcon game we saw earlier. It's fun, but there are definitely better game modes. Patchwork is a puzzle game that I honestly thought was going to be boring, but I got hooked right away. You basically just have to use the touchscreen to put the patches where they fit. Once you're finished, it makes a cute little picture. However, it can be tough finding exactly where the patch goes. Kung Fu was one that I didn't really enjoy that much. You jump around collecting dumplings using the gamepad to know exactly where you have to land. The controls were kind of funky and it was honestly just boring. I didn't get incredibly far in Game & Wario, so these were just a fraction of what the game offers, so I might have to make a separate video just on this game. And there you have it, Nintendo games that take full advantage of the Wii U's gamepad features. This took a lot of work to record and gather footage, so let me know down in the comments if there was any cool gimmicks I might have missed in these games. Also, let me know if there are any other games that use the gamepad's cool features that I didn't mention, even if they're third-party games, and I might just make another video showing them off. This was very fun to make. I love making videos like these. We're very close to 1,000 subs, so I would appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. With that being said, I'll catch you guys later. Deuces.